Hi, would you like some coffee? I know I would. I had something really interesting happen to me, and it didn't hit me how interesting it was until 3 days later. So 3 days ago, I went to go buy mice at the Humane Society. I went to adopt them, and they set aside 30 minutes for meet and greet, and I thought 30 minutes, fuck, um, why 30 minutes? And so I go in there and I meet Kat. I think she made her name up. I don't think her name is Kat. And she's just asking me questions. Have you had mice before? I'm like, nope. I've had gerbils, hamsters, a real long time ago. I assume that they're very very similar. I went on Amazon and clicked on cages, and then clicked all the buttons for people also buy this, which is food, bedding, sand, oddly enough, toys, wheels, things like that. So these $5 mice were going to cost me a little bit over 200 bucks. And she's like, well, I think they're asleep now in this little tiny, they had this little cave. And she went to go like kind of shake it. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to wake them up. She went, I'm like, I mean, they'll wake up when we put them in like whatever tote, whatever tote you have. And she's like, well, I thought you'd want to see them. And I'm like, well, I saw the picture. I know they look like mice. I know you've named them like Timmy and Alexander, but I also know Timmy doesn't know his name's Timmy. Alexander doesn't know his name's Alexander. And even if they did, they're not going to come when I call. And she was like, she kept looking at me like that, and she continued on her spiel because she asked to do it, and she woke them up. And they immediately explored their environment to make sure nothing had changed. And I said, that's a sign of high intelligence. She's like, yeah, it is actually. And I said, I got my dog here. And evidently, when I email people, they could see my picture and Aquila. I didn't know that. Because twice now someone said, like, oh, I saw that picture of you and your dog. I'm like, where? So I had emailed them. They weren't friends of mine, they were companies. And anyway, I said, well, when I came in the Humane Society to get my dog Aquila, we brought into the meet and greet room, and the guy who brought him in kept trying to get Aquila to interact with me. And Aquila was just interested in the room. He was interested in the trainer, because the trainer had treats, and he was interested in seeing the other dogs that he could see through the window now, because they can't see each other from their cages. So I was just watching him. I was like, no, you don't need to get him interested in me. Like, we're not, same with the mice, same with the dog. We're not going to have this. And then we locked eyes, and I just felt my heart did this, and he came right up to me and he licked my hand. Like, it's a dog, and these are mice. And eventually, the mice, actually, even now, day 3, when I put up my finger, one of them will come and sniff it. And God, Keela took forever to finally like turn around. We were at the dog park, and he turned around, he's like, wait a minute. He came running up to me. It was the first time he came running up to me the entire time I owned him. I knew that would happen. I don't need that. I don't need it to happen in the very first few minutes. It's not a Cinderella movie starring Old Man Earl. You're like at 3 minutes going like, when do we get to the interesting part? The interesting part is for me. It's like I'm working this out in my head. So after our 30 minutes mandatory hangout time, one that I wasn't unaware was going to be a requirement, she's like, you have the energy of a caretaker for animals, in that a lot of people at the Humane Society have the same energy. So we love to care for animals. Animals sense that. We are not emotionally invested necessarily into animals specifically, a specific gerbil or a specific dog or a specific bird or a specific rabbit or whatever. At first, we're just there to care for them, make sure, they get all their stuff and whatnot. And then as time goes on, feelings develop, as they do. But there's no expectation in me at all for any kind of feeling to develop other than the feelings that develop. I'm not thinking like, and then we became soulmates. Unless that fucking happens, and I'm like, and then we became soulmates. I learned more about love from this dog than I've learned from any human being my whole life. Fucking wild. And true. Anyway, so that's not necessarily so weird. So you're slightly indifferent to animals that you haven't got a relationship with, and they could sense it, because that was the other thing about being the dog whisperer, walking as the hand of dog, as the dog messiah. I'd be at the dog park and I'd see a dog kind of like a little tiny dog, and all the other dogs run around. There's people running around. This dog's like, ugh. And I'd sit down, I'd squat down, I'd put my my arms over my knees like this. So I've created like this circle between my legs, and then my arms come across the top, and then my head's over. And that little dog ran straight in between my legs and turned around. It's like, it knew I was I was a more safe place than their owner. And even as I squatted down, the owner said, so a lady, of course, said, he doesn't like, no, I can't remember my dog doesn't like men. And the dog immediately ran and hid between my legs. Says, your dog does like men. Your dog probably has been exposed to men in your life that you had a negative reaction to, and dogs are sensitive to that. My dog might not like bananas if I hate bananas, and he sees me chuck bananas out the door every time a banana doesn't do what I say. So suddenly thought about that, because it's the same with people. And I could psychoanalyze myself and figure out how this happened as a very, very young boy, not forming instant emotional connections to the adults in my life. Like I grew up, my first couple of years, I grew up kind of without my father, and then kind of also not without my father even after he was back, because he came back from Vietnam and wasn't back, untreated PTSD. And then I had a stepmother from a large family. Two families kind of converged. So her actually friends became brothers and sisters and whatnot. And then they had their own kids. And so there was like this weird Brady Bunch where like moms and dads switched and different families showed up, and then other kids were born. So she had a weird way to not connect as well. So I go out in a school environment, and man, kids treated me like the albatross with the cross on its chest. If you paint a cross on an albatross chest, basically anything, and it could be a circle, but like typically they do the cross back in the day in the 1800s. This was fun. And then other albatrosses. Is it albatrosses? Fuck, maybe I have this wrong. Shit. It's a bird. I can't remember. But the other birds kill it right off the bat. They sense a difference and do not like it. That bird would be accepted one moment, then gets changed with paint, and then must die. And so kids want to be loved. Kids want attention. Teenagers want to be loved. Teenagers want attention from others. They don't want to give it to get it. They're like, hey, look at me, I'm wonderful. Like, hey, aren't you digging me? And I'll be like, I don't know. Maybe over a prolonged period of time after I get a thorough judgment of your character. And also, probably you would offer like a little bit of friendship too first, and then I'd offer a little bit back and see if you matched it. Or if you're just like, hey, don't you want to give me a bunch of friendship? Help me move. Can I borrow some money? Like, no, I'm not a bank. I'm not a moving company. Then working my way into careers where you get hazed, and be like, everyone hazed me, and I'm like, all right. And they're like, well, you better like start learning how to step up here if you want to fit in. And I'm like, I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to fit in, because in order to fit in, kind of like joining a group with similar ideas and behaviors and people that you respect and attitudes that you respect, and like goals that everyone has. We all work together. Like we all get into this tribe, into a company. We all work together for something. But then I show up, and everyone here treated me like shit. And in my mind, being in my first couple weeks, working really, really hard, excited to learn, excited to meet everybody, I'm no longer excited to meet you guys at all. Not ever. And 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, I'll remember you greeted me like an absolute asshole. for no reason, and also as a group. You know, if one guy and I got off on the wrong foot, and he's like, "I'm sorry, when you first got here, I thought you'd said this or you'd done this, or I had this impression that," and I was completely fucking wrong. And I'm like, "Okay, well, thank you for telling me that. Apology accepted. I forgive you. Um, you're still never gonna be my favorite person. Like, sorry. Like, I mean, it's just like you accidentally drive a nail into a fence, and then you pry that nail out, and then you paint over where that hole went in and where the pry marks were. There's still a dent, and there's a hole underneath that paint. You didn't rejuvenate the wood in immaculate condition. You didn't wave a wand and remove any kind of memory or negative impact your behavior had upon me at the time. 11 minutes. So I realized this part of me, this like non-static, non-electric, non-magnetic thing that doesn't immediately make me attached to another person, and also completely fine if someone doesn't like me. Like I've got no inner feelings about it at all. Frankly, I could think of a lot of good reasons not to like me. I could think of a lot of good reasons not to like everybody. I do like everybody until they prove that there is no point to it. Or it might cost me to like them. Wouldn't like that at all. But that's how a lot of people grow up learning to interact with others is you get punished, so you do better. Your parents treat you bad, so you change your behavior. Like it's like this and that. Like you go to work, you get written up, so you do work harder. And it's like, and I'm thinking like, you want me to work harder? Show me, get over here and show me what we want done. Show me how to do it in a way that is more productive. Or ask me like, what do I think would be more productive? It's not this way. The way you do it is not productive at all. And I could prove it, but like, instead of asking me about it, you're like, I'm going to write you up for, this, that, the other thing. I'm like, you're welcome to. It doesn't change anything. It's not like I was standing around like trying not to work. It's like, I was you stopped me from working. Yeah, that's led to a fairly large amount of, God, what is that bird? Pelicans? Is it pelicans? I fucking gotta Google that later. 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Be a little bonus footage. So I currently weigh almost 230 pounds, and 16 years ago, I weighed 230 pounds, and I was doing bad in life 16 years ago. I was struggling. That's what I mean. I wasn't doing the wrong thing. I was working like multiple jobs and doing all that I could to survive. And this last year has hit me really hard, and this winter especially, I found to be a bit overly difficult. I turned to food for the first time in my life as a comfort. My whole life, that's why I've been so skinny. Actually, is I've never really been interested in food. And this winter, I was eating. I got more into cooking and cast iron cooking, and my fridge was full all the time, and I was just emptying it. Um, so now I'm cutting back on food. I'm gonna start doing the one meal a day thing. I'm cutting back on alcohol actually with barely thinking about it. Like I just feel mentally, emotionally so much better. I mean, I like beer. I like to have beer. Like when some people are like they like cigarettes, they're like, I'm just a smoker. I'm like, well, I'm kind of a beer drinker. Um, like I've said it a million times. Like I kind of always thought it was a man's prerogative to get off work and come home and have a couple beers. Like not a six pack, um, not get drunk, but have a steak, have a beer, maybe some mashed potatoes, maybe some green beans and corn. Food's free. I'm getting into food lately. Um, anyway, I think this like my non-automatic emotional connection to people has really paved an interesting road for me. And I wouldn't say it's a hard road necessarily. I think I probably missed out on a huge amount of connections with people. There was this guy that really, really didn't fucking like me. And then oddly enough, he ended up dating one of my friends. And then they moved out of town, and then I flew over to visit them. He's like, it's like, welcome to my house. And I'm like, I own every single one of these movies. I don't own this one. He's like, oh, that's a great movie. And I'm like, I've heard about that movie. Isn't that based on that one book? He's like, it is based on that book. I have the book. I'm like, can I see your bookshelf? And then I got his bookshelf. I knew I either had every one of his books, read every one of his books, or if I hadn't, I was familiar with almost every single author he had. And then the ones that I wasn't familiar with, I was immediately going like, what's this guy like? We could have been two peas in a pod. We could have been brothers, you know? And, no, that's not going to happen. He fucking hated my guts for so long, for no apparent reason, that I'm never going to be his buddy. If he was flowing past me in a river and I would throw him a rope. And once he was okay, I said, are you okay? Do you need anything? Do you need a phone call? Do you need me to drive someplace? No? All right, I'll see you later. Glad you didn't drown. And I'd walk off. Motherfucker wouldn't even have to thank me. All right, that's long enough. Enjoy. I hope you enjoy this video.